You're good.
Thank you. All right, good to go. Thank you very much. The WSESD board meeting of May 28th will come to order. Before I forget, let's begin with the hybrid statement. If I can find it. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public bodies meeting remotely, some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties. If you are having difficulty connecting, please reach out to someone in the meeting, either by text or by email, and we will do our very best to make sure that you are connected. Either way, the meeting will continue. Are there any changes to the agenda as it exists? Matt?
I would like to remove the minutes from the board meeting on 5/14/2024 from the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, what's the date?
5/14/2024.
Okay, so that you want to pull, okay, from the consent agenda. So when we get there, would you remind me, please,
Of
in
course.
case I forget? Okay, so that goes to the issue if, as you look at the consent agenda, for now we are passing everything on the consent agenda with one motion, unless there is something of concern, which is what Matt Shibley just made me aware of, and we will pull it out for separate discussion. Any other changes to the agenda? Tim,
I just have two very brief announcements to make.
where would those announcements normally go? Do you think?
Board matters.
Under board matters. So what I'd like to do under board matters is add an item entitled Other Business.
Good.
Okay. And that way we can get in all of the announcements. I would like to add a couple of things to the agenda. One, under administrative report, I would like to add an additional item in terms of a hiring committee for assistant principal. So I'd like to add that, for that to come up at that time. And I would also, just for the sake of clarity, under admin report again, where it says hires, resignations, and retirements, action required on that statement. I did my due diligence on this issue of action required. I almost feel as if with every item on every agenda, I should amend it with action, potential action, action required. It's not necessary to do that, apparently. It's a mix of open meeting law, it's a mix of Robert's rules. If it's on the agenda, it is motionable. That's my understanding of this gray area. Okay, any other issues under amending the agenda or changing the agenda? So then we are in agreement with the agenda to proceed at this point. Okay. Let's begin with student matters. 10 minutes for student matters. Are there any students online or in the space who would like to speak? I'm looking around for students.
Let me just share, if you didn't get a chance to check out the hallways of the school, John gave us a tour this evening. It was super impressive, the artwork that is on display.
And this room is incredible as an art room, right? The vista that you've got, the sweet space for students
Yes.
to sort of decompress in. It's really quite beautiful, yes.
Is this the time the public can weigh in?
Not yet, we're just doing students. Do you fall into that category?
It would for Putney Central School students, but you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about students. Putney Central, students from anywhere in the district. This is time for them to speak. I see no hands in the space. Still no hands. So, with that in mind, let's move to public comment on non-agenda items. And before we begin there, I would like to take a moment to say regarding public comment, which will be part of every agenda. This is a time to provide the public the opportunity to speak on agenda items or any relevant topic. This is a time for the board to listen and to take notes. It is not a time for the board to respond to comments or engage in a dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. So for now, the board is open to hearing public comments on non-agenda items. And as you're called on, please indicate your name and your town, please. Yes, thank you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Mike Norwicki, and I live here in Putney. And what I wanted to share was a quick anecdote from a recent student visit to the State House. We had, was it 7th and 8th graders or
Just eight.
just 8th graders touring the State House. And at one point in the visit, we were upstairs in the gallery at the Senate, and the debate that was happening was about the creation of community schools. And as the debate unfolded, one of the students turned to his teacher and said, "This is awesome." I thought, what a great lesson for them to be able to watch policy happening that may affect them during 8th grade. And it's one of the most fun things I get to do is when we have students come up to the State House. And I certainly want to recognize John for how often he facilitates this. This happens every year, and it's kind of hands-on learning. And I certainly love participating.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? So this is a time for public comment on non-agenda items. Okay, public comment on non-agenda items. It is now 6:10 when this time frame should appropriately begin. So we'll give it a couple of minutes to see if anyone is clocking in at this point. All right. Well, if anyone notices hand up from the public, please let me know. Again, public comment on non-agenda items. I don't see any hands at this point. So let's go to board matters. Leadership Council updates. Any comment? Eva, thank you. Eva Nolan.
Hi, Eva Nolan. So I went to the in-service meeting with the EES on Friday, and it was a really amazing time, and I got to meet so many different educators. I'm glad that Head Start is compliant when we had the evaluation, so that's something to celebrate. One of the things that did come up was that people did have a question about there were some of the educators I sat at the table with. They did have a question. They said that EES used to be a part of district wide. There's a district wide that they used to be a part of, and they got a lot of use out of it, speaking to other educators and then hearing also from the administrators. So I just wanted to add that I guess they haven't been invited to it, so they're just maybe that's something that you might want to think about in the future. And then also there was another conversation that we had.
Eva, can I just interrupt you 1 second? Could you restate what the issue is between EES and the district? I'm not quite sure I fully grasp that.
Yeah, so there is an event that happens. It's called district wide, that happens with the WSESD. So it was something that happened at once a year, and EES used to be invited to it, and they found a lot of use out of being invited and speaking to other educators. Since I'm not sure if it was since COVID or how long that stopped, but they have not been participating in that. So based on the conversations I had at the table, it was very useful for them to be included.
Okay. So just to resolve that issue, maybe you could ask Deb Gass to send a quick email, because I'm looking around the room to see recognition about the event that we're talking about. So it'd be helpful if Deb Gass maybe got in touch with Kim and with me directly about that issue, Eva. So if you could reach out to her, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. And then the other question, the other conversation we had was, I know that we have an admin and board retreat, but one of the things, and I'm not saying that's what we should do, but one of the conversations is there a way to include EES within that retreat, because they are part of the district.
That gas is invited to that. So they will be represented.
Okay. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Eva. Anyone else? We are talking about Leadership Council updates. Okay. Yes.
Many of them probably we haven't met since our last meeting, so.
Right. And I realize that we have a board meeting next Tuesday, which is unbelievable, and probably leadership councils will, many of them will not have met in the interim. So, all right, board subcommittees. Any reports from board subcommittees? Yes, Kim.
We will be rescheduling the personnel committee because there was a little hiccup before the meeting today, so we'll be rescheduling that hopefully for the beginning, at some point beginning next week.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else for board subcommittees? Okay. And we are moving on to letter C, update on admin board retreat on June 18. Mark?
There you go.
Sure.
Okay, so we've had representatives from the 3 boards and central office have met on 2 occasions, over 4 hours of meetings. We've collaborated on an agenda. I sent out, probably haven't seen it yet, but later this afternoon, an overview of the agenda for the 18th. And following will be more descriptive slide deck. So that's to come around the second week of June. You'll be receiving that. In the email, there's 2 little homework assignments. One, to share your thoughts in an introductory slideshow. So that would be done prior to the meeting, and we would reference that at the meeting. And then also a survey asking for board opinions on essential questions that the board would like to hear from school leaders next school year. So we'll tabulate all that information, incorporate it into the slide deck, and those would be 2 elements of the retreat that we'll focus in on, especially the essential questions. That'll really guide how we build the calendar. So, Deborah or Kim or Carrie want to chime in, but it's felt like it's been a very good collaboration. And Bryn Tucker, Whitney Line, Eric, Tate Erickson have represented the SU along with myself. But I feel like we've done really good work on behalf of the board and the greater admin team. So it's been a thoughtful process, and we're close to wrapping it up.
So Mark mentioned in that email that it's been 4 hours of work having to do with pulling together the agenda. I just want to say it's been many, many more hours of work than those 4 when you consider what people bring to the table. It's 4 hours where we're sitting there at the
Right.
table, but without mentioning names, key people are just really doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes, and really appreciative of that. As we consider what we're going to do next Tuesday at the board meeting, I recommend something that Elaine Pickney had referenced, and that is to take the governance core and look at it chapter by chapter and assign groups who are going to be at the June 18th meeting, so that different groupings are assigned to different chapters. We're going to leave out a couple of chapters that are really short and abbreviated, or maybe truncate them. And that will enable us to know that even as admin and board members, we are asked to read the book. It's not a difficult read, it's short, but then we're going to be asked to focus very narrowly on the assigned chapter, as well as a brief assignment having to do with that assigned chapter. So we come in fully prepared.
And Elaine has graciously offered to facilitate that portion of the work, so, as well as an icebreaker to start the meeting. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So, Tim,
Is it gonna be from 9 to 3 or 9 to 4?
Let's see. Breakfast will be served at 8:15 to 9. That'll be like a mingled time. And then we'll end the day at 3:45.
Okay, thanks.
okay. Any other questions about that day? We'll be able to address more of them as we come back together on Tuesday. Okay, thank you. Something came up that's on the agenda, and that is, and I'm laughing because the smell that's wafting, you can't smell it through Zoom land, but it's a strong smell of chocolate. I feel like Homer Simpson. So the issue that's on the agenda is to consider refreshments at board meetings. So I'm opening that up for discussion, to consider refreshments at board meetings. We've had board meetings that have gone on until 10 o'clock at night. We are hopefully pulling it together and a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but pull it together a bit. So, do we want to address this as a possibility? And then, of course, whoever speaks first in is now responsible. Okay, so watch out, beware. Hi, Sean.
This is very appropriate. I have absolutely no interest in having refreshments at a board meeting. I think it's counterproductive. I think it's not the business of the board, so I am dead set against it. I will not participate.
Thank you very much, Sean. Anyone else? Jim?
I would like an open bar, but I guess it's not appropriate.
All right, can we stay very focused on non-alcoholic beverages and on and on? Ruby?
I actually think that it's a thoughtful suggestion, and I think that to me, refreshments actually make it easier to, like, if we do extend longer, easier to extend longer. If you didn't get as much to eat and you're, starving and you don't have nuts in your bag as a backup, it's a way to kind of make peace with your stomach. I also think that one thing I feel fairly strongly about is that we not have expenditures related to it. So in my mind, if we were to do something like this, having rotating kind of pitch in from a board member perspective feels appropriate. I do know today Putney Central School Central Office of their own volition made brownies and brought them in, and that was a really sweet gesture. Other schools might participate in that way, but I think actually what I would appreciate, if I'm really being honest, is some savory, non-sweet nourishment, if that is happening. And I'm happy to participate, but I don't think it should be a required pitch in.
Okay.
Eva has.
Yes, I do see. Yeah, Eva, thank you.
Studies have shown that when you have meetings during dinner time without food, the meetings people tend to get really foggy. They tend to be very irritable and unproductive. So having something like coffee, even just like some apples or some crackers for folks, it really helps with setting the tone of the meeting. And I've done some research about board meetings around dinner time, meetings around dinner time, and all of them have said, feed the people, like give them food. So especially around dinner time. So I think that if we're going to be doing these longer meetings, and when I look at sort of how many meetings we have, if you do 50, if we were to set an expenditure of $50 per meeting, that would be $1,200 per year. But if we also have, if we have a coffee machine and you have some of the coffee pods, a lot of times we have extras at our house, we could, bring that. It'd probably be a lot less. But I do think that as these meetings get longer and it's really right smack in dinner time, I think it would be really great for us to have a little something to munch on.
Tim?
I agree with Eva, and every meeting Matt is kind enough to give us chocolates. And she's right, it sets a really nice tone. I think it's a very nice thing to do. I would just encourage all of us to just voluntarily kick in sometimes. I'll be doing that sometimes.
I think we can anticipate when a meeting is going to run longer than desirable. So I think also a number of us bring something to nibble on, knowing our own blood sugar and what we need to do to maintain. I know I feel uncomfortable eating in the presence of others when others are not eating or don't have access to a snack. I am reluctant to take this on personally, to add this to my to-do list, that where I might also feel guilty because others are providing and I just cannot or choose not to. So something to consider. Any other discussion on this issue? You know, one thing that I think of, both in terms of school meetings and business meetings, I mean, I think this is de rigueur, that there's coffee, there's tea, there's water, there are apples, to accommodate an evening meeting or even a late afternoon meeting after a full day of teaching. It might be something to consider if we are in the acoustic room and we have access potentially to the kitchen at BUHS, if something could be done to accommodate an occasional meeting. Not sure. Matt?
Information seeking question for administration. In the teachers' lounges, what sort of food or beverage items are available for teachers and other staff during the workday, if anything?
Just whatever they bring. So it's a bit workday.
So the district does not provide coffee or apples or other things for the staff during the workday?
We have a vending machine.
I'm sorry, say it again?
There's a vending machine in some of the staff rooms, like a drink machine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's water, coffee, gurgler.
Yep.
And folks often bring stuff to share, but it's all just what people choose to do.
All right.
Liz has a hand.
Yes, I do realize. Any other comment from board members before I broaden this out? Comment from board members on this issue? Liz Adams, identify yourself and your town, please.
Liz Adams from Putney. Most of the time that I was on the board, we had to meet remotely because of COVID. And we also had some really, really long board meetings. But because it was remote, I could go like make a sandwich or have a cup of coffee. And I noticed that as the later the meetings got, the more unfocused they were. People were tired, they were cranky. But I was all perky because I had been rejuvenated with coffee and whatever, cucumbers, I don't know. But I think that's something to keep in mind. I don't think it should be a mandatory thing, but people who know that they're going to need something for the longer meetings, I think it'd be wise to set up for people who say they can and they're willing to do it, to set up something for those longer meetings so you guys can have clearer heads and not be so tired.
I agree. I do think that if this were my responsibility on a given evening, I need to accommodate both the needs of the board as well as the needs of administrators who are in the space, also attending the meeting, also participating. So it becomes a big issue. And I think this was going to Ruby's point, I think. It might be that to get this off the ground, two people team up and say, all right, for the next board meeting, let's band together. Because it's not an insignificant expense, and it's rather inconvenient if we don't have access to a coffee urn, or, that's an impossibility. It might be that the best we can do is, to a large degree, continue the way we have been functioning, with people bringing in snacks and cookies. And I think Ruby and I, again, are on the same wavelength. An occasional non-sweet item, right? Which for some of us does not serve us well in terms of getting through an evening. Anything else on this issue?
Can I ask for a quick thing?
Yes, I'm gonna go back here, and would you identify yourself and your town, please?
Carolyn Oliver, Putney, I'm on the Leadership Council. You know, I think at least for some of the meetings, you know, having you come here to Putney is just wonderful. And if I had thought about it for a little longer, I would have loved to have brought something, even special. So I wonder if at least for your rotating meetings, if the leadership councils might want to take on welcoming you and showing our appreciation for your willingness to travel.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Michaela.
I was gonna add that this the things that we do for students is that we just have a whole bunch of like dry snacks and boxes and seltzer water and stuff like that we have available for students. And that's one thing the teachers do for students, is have like nuts and like trail mix and like just stuff that we keep and we buy it in bulk and stash it somewhere.
So is this grounds to get the pickup truck?
Then you have a box of the
Okay. And maybe if the Cusick is the room that we're using on a regular basis, there'll be a place to store stuff. I don't know, but that we can figure out with time. I'm going to move on to the next agenda item. We can come back to this and just test the water and see how it works over time. Next item. And it's entitled Use of the Occasional Special Meeting to Approve Last-Minute Hiring Decisions. This came up because of notices that are coming in, especially this time of year, that something may have come in earlier today about a new hire, about a resignation or a retirement. And so this came up as a way of addressing perhaps a 2-week gap so that we're not waiting 2 weeks to approve a new hire. I don't see a problem with this. There is public comment on non-agenda items on every agenda, special meeting or not. So we can easily add some board business if that would accommodate the special hires, not the special hires, but the hires that are taking place that where we, as board members, where we receive notice right before a meeting, if we need more time. But again, that is very iffy, because I don't know when there will be a special meeting. And I'm reliant on Doodle to a large degree to see board availability for a special meeting, and that does not mean admin would be present at all. So again, let's keep this open-ended and see what the needs are of the board as we proceed, and especially if I can anticipate a special meeting. Anything else on that issue? Ruby?
Just to clarify, so a normal meeting requires 48 hours of warning. A special meeting is 24 hours, and an emergency meeting is kind of
An emergency.
emergently.
Yes, and maybe we never have that.
So
Yes.
I guess when I saw this on the agenda, I thought I was curious about it because to me, it was describing what would be a good use of a special meeting. Like what I had already assumed, if there was a hiring decision that would be good to move quickly on, I would assume that a special meeting could be called. But so if that assumption of mine was not shared by everyone, is there something we need to do or acknowledge or as a group, as a body, to say this is a function that we will engage in? I don't know.
I don't either. Matt?
I'm reticent to put this out there, although I wonder if some creative thinking may help this group. Would there be utility for the board to consider a regularly, during the high point of hiring season, a regularly scheduled weekly meeting, virtual on the off weeks, for the purposes of hiring only, brief, half-hour, limited schedule, so that it wouldn't be a special meeting per se, but it would be a regular meeting, recurring weekly. For consideration.
For consideration, yeah. I don't see hiring as happening so frequently that we would need to predetermine that every week we are having a board meeting, short or not short. Did I see a potential hand going up? Carrie?
I'm thinking, I'm trying to,
Yes.
I'm trying to distinguish this from during the summer, the personnel committee usually meets weekly because we need to approve lots of hires, and they would like us to meet weekly because they want to get those offer letters out. So I don't know if there's a difference between SD, what this hiring is, and personnel during the summer.
Somehow I think personnel during the summer is picking up the slack of what we're talking about in terms of hiring. And that exists to accommodate the fact that the board might not meet every 2 weeks, or even in meeting every 2 weeks, there's so much going on, we need to move a little more quickly. And that's why the personnel committee has that mandate from the board, as well, I believe, as does finance, in very much the same philosophical view, right? Pragmatic view, rather, not philosophical. So.
Eva had it.
Eva, thank you. Thank you, Paul.
One thing is in regards to the situation, we were going to have executive sessions anyways. So if the event happens where we're having planned executive sessions and it happens to fall into that timeline period, would it make sense for us for 10 minutes or not even before we go into executive session to do that hire?
Of course, absolutely. I think that's exactly what we're talking about. It's just that the special meeting occurs on an as-needed basis, and it can be called within, 48 hours? 48-hour notice, I do believe, for a special meeting. So that's a possibility. There's an overlap with the personnel committee, I'm hearing. So again, let's keep eyes on this, thoughts on this, and revisit it as we see fit. I would like, with permission, to shift the next 2 items on the agenda. One is the Darrow Scholarship, and that will necessitate our going into executive session. And then letter G, is other business. So can we just do the other business first and then go into executive session? Does anyone object to that? Okay, thank you. Other business. So, Tim.
Okay, first, for any athletic team to win a Vermont state championship is a huge deal. I would like to congratulate the Brattleboro Union High School Unified Basketball Team for winning the state championship.
Oh, bravo. Thank you.
Second announcement, we had a May 22nd deadline for student rep applications. Unfortunately, we didn't have any applications, so we're going to extend that search for a second student rep later, maybe perhaps in August. But I am glad to re-announce that Thea Wepaloki is our student representative for next year. She is a rising senior. She is an outstanding individual. We're very fortunate to have her as a student rep.
And just to make sure that everyone understands, she applied for this position last year, ostensibly for the 23-24 school year. And then she was appointed to the US Congress as a page for the first 6 months of this prior school year. So her acceptance was deferred for the next school year, which is her senior year. So that's why we already have someone in place. If, by chance, administrators in the school are aware of applications that have come in that somehow have not made their way to Tim or to me, please alert us immediately. Okay, thank you. I see Hannah. Yes, Hannah, thank you.
Yeah, I know that we have candidates who are very interested in this, but are young and didn't intentionally apply because they would like to do it in later years. And I wonder if there's any ability to allow for a multi-year seat if they could reapply and do it 2 years in a row, because I think it would open some opportunities for the board.
Well, I think that's a great suggestion. I think that this is a limited opportunity, and we would like to spread this out to as many students as possible. So for someone to go into it on the assumption that they could do it 2 years in a row, it's either community service or there's a stipend associated with this opportunity. I think we really would like to spread this out as much as possible. I think there are numerous opportunities in the school system for students to take on leadership roles. So I think we need to keep it as a 1-year opportunity for now.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking isn't about like moving it to a 2-year opportunity, because I totally agree. And I think it's been great having different representatives the last couple of years. What I'm wondering is if you get to a place in August where you don't have someone filling that seat, would you at that point say, this is for 1 year and you could reapply again next year because we have the open seat? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It feels like a bargaining position because the board is feeling.
But I do all day long, Deborah.
What did you just say?
So that's what I do all day long.
No, right, exactly. Exactly. I think it's something to consider. I really don't want to close doors on any possibilities. I just don't want to bargain this out.
And are you okay if I send an email to students saying that there wasn't any applicants for this role and to reach out to you if anyone is interested?
Yes, please. Okay. Yes, and Michaela as well. Thank you very much.
Students told me they were going to apply, and like they didn't. I guess.
Michaela, that person wants to do it later in high school.
Well, that might be the case. But let's light a fire under these very young applicants. And even if they're planning on doing it in a future year, again, there are no guarantees what that future year will look like for that young person. So why not have that individual reach out to us now, even if they're considering it for the following year?
Okay.
Why, I think one thing that we want to assist young people with is the skill of networking. And it would be a very good idea to reach out and introduce themselves at this point. Mm-hmm. I just saw a hand on this side of the room, and now I don't. Okay. Anything else on the student rep position? We're emerging with this possibility. It's only been 2 years. So we are now going into the 3rd year. And I think it is appropriate to assess, and keep on tweaking the process as much as possible. So Hannah, thank you very much for these suggestions. Let's get these young people motivated and reaching out and introducing themselves to the board, who are ultimately the decision makers, right? We need to meet them.
Deborah, can I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
And I should probably know this.
what are the community service hours and the stipend when they decide between one or the other? Do you know?
I'm looking at, Tim right now.
Well, the community service requirement is 40 hours, and the stipend is $500.
No, but I'm wondering what is offered to be on the school board. I know what the hours required are, but I can't imagine.
To attend every board meeting at least from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
So I think Hannah's asking another question, and that is, what are the community service hours? Is that what you're asking?
Just in terms of like how many hours typically is a student at a board meeting to get?
Oh, okay.
2 hours.
4 hours a month.
Right.
So they get almost their 40 hours.
36 hours in a year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. We also encourage those representatives to attend student advisory committee meetings as well. The first year, they were attending regularly. This year, not at all. So again, we are assessing how it's working, and it will change every single year. Ruby.
Just out of curiosity, the student advisory committee, that group, are individuals in that group kind of thinking about or being asked specifically or invited to apply, and those are examples of individuals who just haven't stepped up?
Yeah, most of them are seniors.
I see.
No, they're not. One of them is a freshman who's coming every meeting. But no, that is not happening right now.
No, and the other issue is, it's not the first step to becoming a board rep. There are students on the student advisory, they have no interest in being board reps at all. So two separate entities altogether. And as I described previously, with the first iteration of board representatives, every single individual who applied to be a board rep decided to stay together for the following year. And that's the formation of the Student Advisory Committee. So it's a group of concerned students. And at this point, someone says to a friend, come on to the meeting. Let's see what's going on. I'd like to introduce you. So it's word of mouth as well. So it is sort of an ad hoc committee.
It feels a little bit like a missed opportunity to cultivate relationships with students. I see that they're two different functions or two different groups, but wouldn't it be great if there was really overlap that was worked in and codified? In a way, it seems like it would really benefit us, and I think I thought that that's what was happening. I don't think I really understand what the student advisory committee is, and so it's just something. Like you said, I think this is in the early stages of formation and its growth and reevaluating. So I think that might be something for the students to think about, like what is their connection to the district, to the board, and how are they participating?
And that has been a lot of the discussion of this year. Mm-hmm. The first year, that group of students were given the morning session of the March PD all day in service. And wow, they ran with it. That was great. The second year has been very different. There are numerous opportunities to meet with administrators. And it's yet another place for students to find their voice in the school system in a very relaxed way. So it's changing. I hear you loud and clear. It's changing, right? I would like to just, Eva earlier had mentioned Early Education Services, EES. And I would like to acknowledge the work that several board members did in relationship to EES. And I just want to acknowledge Ruby and Eva and Tim and myself. We were interviewed as part of, I guess, the recertification of EES. And I must say that EES has passed with resounding success. So the Administration for Children and Families, ACF, and Office of Head Start, OHS, recently conducted a monitoring review of this program. And as Deb Gass wrote to me, this was an arduous process, and EES is very proud to be in 100% compliance with the Office of Head Start regulations. This designation will help us next year as we prepare our competitive renewal application. So congratulations to Deb Gass and the Head Start program. The final item before we go into executive session. The next board meeting is next Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. It means that by tomorrow night, I would very much like to have the next agenda ready to send to Mo. I just want to get this off my plate completely. So I sent a quick email to everyone before this meeting earlier today. As you have issues, please get them to me as quickly as possible. I think we can spend some time in the next meeting talking about June 18. And I do have some ideas, but I don't want to get into necessarily a back and forth this evening. Oh, what the hey. Here are a couple of my ideas. One, going to a point that Ruby made several weeks ago, and that is, as we consider meeting norms, as a new board, we should reassess the meeting norms that we agreed to. So it might be something that we could take time next Tuesday and talk about. And then we're meeting at Putney Central. We have been moving about all year, and we need to assess what that process has been like. So I believe tonight's meeting is the last one in this rotation, and then we're back in the Cusick room, I believe. So we could do that next week. So those are some of my ideas for next week. Get them to me, please, as soon as possible. Any other business before we go into executive session? Eva.
Since we're talking about EES, I just wanted to end one point that had come up, was the conversation in regards to the different schedules for EES. So for early education, they do not have summers off. So they work all summer long. And one other thing is, so a lot of times with early education teachers, they will teach because their children are very young, and it's kind of a great way because you also get childcare. Also, if you so once the kids hit kindergarten, that schedule changes drastically, and it's really hard to be an early education teacher with that schedule and then have your kids be in a different time zone. So aftercare is really important. So a lot of times once the kids hit kindergarten, they lose those teachers. So it's something to think about. I think that, like for instance, which came up for the schedule for in-service, we had school day, but a lot of the parents didn't understand why that service was there. Like it was not aligned with like our district. So even though our kids were in school, they had to give notice that there was no childcare for that day. So it's something to think about, and I think that it's amazing that they to have to work all year round and have that schedule. It's an incredible service that we have, and they do so much work, and they also are paid extremely low. It's getting better, but their pay rate has not gone in line with teacher pay. I think right now they're hitting that $50,000 mark. But not everybody is getting that. So it is a very low paid position with very odd hours, and they try their best.
Thank you for being such a strong advocate for employees in our district. I think you're raising a significant issue that goes beyond EES, that as a parent and educator, I was always in a panic when my schedule did not match my child's schedule, which is an ongoing issue for those people who perhaps teach on the upper level and the high school, trying to do a juggling act with elementary school schedules. It's not a match, unfortunately. And I say all of that not to minimize anything that you have just said. Eva, I think you were raising a critical issue. So keep these issues before us, please, everyone. Any other issues before I move into executive session? Okay. Is there a motion to find that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage?
So moved.
Thank you. That pause is for a second.
Seconded.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please raise your hand and indicate by saying no. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We're going into executive session to talk about the academic records of a student. And before I get to the motion entering executive session, we are inviting Mark Spino and Hannah Parker into this meeting. Is there a motion to enter executive session under 1 V.S.A. 313A17 for the purpose of reviewing academic records or suspension or discipline of students?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? All right, it is 7 o'clock and we are going into executive session. Thank you. Thank you for that heads up about recordings. So we are coming out of executive session. We rose from executive session at 7:11, and with that in mind, is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the board representatives from Putney?
So moved for the candidate for the Darrow Scholarship.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, in terms of the motion for the candidate for Darrow, and second, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. We are moving on to the administrative report. And This is a presentation by Michaela Sims, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Resources, Challenges, and Successes.
Yeah, Michaela is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So thank you for joining us tonight, Michaela.
Thank you, and I made a couple changes to the slideshow. I just shared it with you, Paul. Are you the taskmaster? And can y'all hear me okay? I really have to keep this mask on because the pollen count is so high that my mics are not great. Thank you so much for inviting me here to talk about our work. And Shannon's online, and Shannon, I invite you to unmic and co-sign. And Shannon is our equity coach for the district. So, you can go to the next slide. So this year, let's just start off thinking about our collaborations, all the different groups we were able to work with this year. This year, Shannon and I presented at all the almost all the grade level meetings at the different grades in terms of professional development. And Shannon worked really diligently on the EL, our expeditionary learning, which is our ELA curriculum with social justice integration at all different grade levels. As well as I worked on the All Kids course and integrating social justice into that course, which is a course that every teacher is expected to take in their first 3 years in the district. And it's right now facilitated by Deb Coombs and Jay Horse. The other thing, collaboration we've done has been with our other district administrators. We have a faculty book study that we do every leadership meeting. We have our equity retreats, which the administrators come to, and of course, if board members want to come to that, we usually come the second day of our May retreats. We also have building-based PD that's led by the equity teacher leaders. In addition to that, in the community, we've done presentations at Brooks Memorial Library. We worked with Theater Adventure, and if any of you know Theater Adventure, they were here at Putney Central. And we had Theater Adventure come to Gallery Walk. We actually also are gonna have a mural on the high school. So the middle week of May, Juniper Creative Arts came and worked with a lot of students. And so there'll be a mural now on the outside of the high school. And you just spoke about unified sports, and unified sports are also a big part of our Celebrate Diversity in both the fall and the spring. So then there are pictures. So this is our theme for this year, connecting our diverse histories. And you can just go. This is a gallery walk. Vernon, they did the hexagons. You can go next. This is the 4th grade. You can go to the next slide. Green Street, they have reading buddies. They have an equity club. The kindergarten are reading to the 4th grade. 4th grade are reading to K1. And this is the 8th grade doing the hexagons. Every class and every faculty made these hexagons in which each side you can make up it's an icebreaker. I should have brought them all, huh? It's an icebreaker activity, and each side you write something like your favorite season, and then you match up. And so they make these, you match them up with another person, so they make these interesting shapes, almost honeycombs. This is a video, I'm gonna play this. Okay, go ahead, see the play. Okay, here. If you go to the next slide, you'll see who's singing. The next slide, yeah. That's Shekinah. She's one of our students, actually. had a band that came and presented, and they happened to be her brothers. So she joined them from the audience. And this is the first time working towards Justice Day with Hannah, Andrew, Tyler Boone, where all the students got to choose where they went for their workshops this year, and it went really well. We still have the challenges with attendance, but in terms of the students that are there, there are none in the halls. There were no behavior issues that I heard of, and everyone that was there was engaged. So that every second grader was able to experience Caterpillar Lab throughout the district, and this is some pictures, and that basically they bring caterpillars in all different stages to schools, and the kids used to get to interact with them. And then every K and 1 got to experience the Vermont Natural History Museum, and so they brought a whole range of animals to the classrooms.
Can I just chime something in there?
Go ahead.
And the Vermont Natural History Museum and the Caterpillar Lab, the presentations that they gave connected to the content learning that the students had through the EL literacy curriculum. So just wanted to mention that tie-in.
Happy. And so this year, we're really kind of up the ante with almost every school having at least 8 staff meetings led by equity teacher leaders. And we're just moving in the direction of more connections across the district in terms of it's the same thing, has similar things happening at every school. Not exactly the same, because it's tailored to what's needed at the particular school in terms of equity, but similar in terms of the time dedicated and collaborating with administrators in the buildings to make sure that happens. And so this next year, our theme is going to be Black Lives Matter School Year Purpose. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one is definitely just the ongoing, kind of getting in front of some of the ongoing challenges we've seen in terms of use of language and centering voices of people in times of joy and not just in times of oppression, and what that looks like and for them on the inside. For people who are historically targeted, one of the things you have to do is not just remediate or address problems, I put problems in quotes, we also have to build up and strengthen our students. And so how do we do that? And it's by making positive connections to who they are. And when we think of Black Lives Matter at school and the year purpose, it's not just about Black people, but also about all those who historically have been marginalized in some way and can make a connection to those experiences throughout history and in the present. Because whatever has been happening in the past is happening right now too, in different ways. And so the teacher leaders came to consensus on that for our theme. Those are our retreat days. Ongoing, we're working really hard to develop kind of a portrait of a student and a staff. Like, we were thinking of head, heart, and hand. What students should know, what students should be able to feel and understand, and what they should be able to do at a variety of levels, specifically in regards to equity, as a goal for us to have something that can go up in every classroom. And so the idea will be incremental, like there will be a pre-K 1 strand, and maybe 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, middle school, and then a high school. That's in the works. Also, just more equity integration into PD, including the site-based and district-based coaches meetings. And the last thing is to just try to make more PD available for all faculty and staff, and maybe having something where teachers can do a study together over the year as a way to get also their PD hours, but also the way to focus on the paradigm shift that equity education is. And I think that one of the things that we're always working on is that equity is not an initiative, it's a paradigm shift. You're doing the same thing in a different way. You're looking at it, you're analyzing it, and it's the constant questioning that needs to be on our lips, questioning of ourselves, questioning of the students, and creating that environment. It's like when a kid or an adult or a person asks you a question that makes you really uncomfortable, that means you're doing your job. You know, like if you can't answer it, you're like, that means you're really doing your job. And how do we get people to that point of being comfortable being uncomfortable? Because I love it when my kids ask for something, but lucky for me, usually they're asking someone else. But they can ask me too. So that is kind of our goal and what we're working toward. And we're really appreciative because in this district, people are really dedicated and overall, and they're really invested in integrating equity, and we're about it.
Thank you for your leadership.
One thing that you just said that strikes me is when that difficult question is asked, the one that makes you gasp in horror. You know that you've done a good job because the young person feels safe asking that question, right? Right, and that's where the growth, I mean, the young person, older person, it doesn't matter age, right? Thank you. So, let's open this up for discussion, please. Thank you, Michaela and Shannon. Ruby.
Michaela and Shannon, thank you so much for the presentation. I had two questions. One is really actually asking you to speak to, you mentioned the portrait of the student and maybe a staff portrait. I know that there's work going on at the district level and that you may, be participating in that. Is what you're talking about there really kind of aligning with that district work, or is it kind of is it a different thing that a different tool?
The hope is that some piece of it will be in the district-wide work. It came out of this discussion specifically about race and reimagining the word we use to describe race from a young age. And so the question became, well, what words do we want kids to be using? And can we stop saying difference all the time? Because different starts off being kind of benign, and then it starts to center and like normalize one group, right? And then everybody else is different, right? Kids learn that really quick. And so if we start using the word traits and saying, oh, that's an interesting trait, or use the word human variation to describe the spectrum the spectrum of human experience, and at what different levels can we use those different words, introduce those different words, is how it started. And so then we're like, well, then the teachers need to get used to using those words. And so that's where it came from. It does happen to dovetail with the portrait of the graduate work, and so the hope is that some of the things that we generate will come together with the portrait of the graduate.
I think that that's really powerful, and I appreciate what you're saying around use of language, and I wonder how, when we think about use of the word difference, we've come to talk about learning differences, and that's like the term, at least I am familiar with using. So it's an interesting, it is a kind of, should we be asking ourselves that in terms of, special ed as well? Yeah. So I think that's great. I love hearing that that's work that's happening. Thank you. And then the only other question I had to do with within conversations I've had with constituents within my town and within our leadership council. Black Lives Matter at School Week was a real hot topic, and it was people were grappling with comfort level with Black Lives Matter at School Week as a framing tool. And so I was just wondering if you could speak to, or if there's any way that what would you be able to acknowledge around decisions or a decision to embrace that model or that week? And can you speak to or address or acknowledge any discomfort that you've seen come up in terms of the district-wide use?
I've seen very little. I think that there were like 2 schools, and 2 other schools, and they didn't come to me. The principals handled it, which I feel like also is a testament to where we're at. Like, they were like, oh yeah, we had, and no one told me. I was like, oh, after the fact, we have 2 families, like, they're not coming to school that week. To me, I think that the challenge that we have in this country, and this is something that I can be honest and say that I don't fully understand it myself, is the profoundness of anti-Blackness. And so you can easily cloak that in a lot of different clothing, right? And say, oh, but Black Lives Matter posted this on Facebook, and it's just like, or on Instagram or whatever. I'm not on any of those things. But the reality is, this is not that. This is Black Lives Matter at school, and it came out of a school movement. It came from youth in Seattle, and so it's not the same thing. And so it very much is about students having rights in schools, and students having the right to connect to each other, the right to see and be seen. And yeah, I just think, I've been saying, the more I age, the more I'm like, oh, I think I got it. I'm like, I don't fully understand the manifestations of racism. And I feel like right now we're at a place where a lot of the administrators and other folks in the district feel comfortable stepping up and being like, this is what we're doing. It might make you uncomfortable. And to me, that just speaks to the strength that we built up in our district and how comfortable people are with making other people feel wanted. The kids, speaking to what Deborah was saying before, like some of the students were like, yeah, you're saying Black Lives Matter at school week, but it's not Black enough. And to me, when the kids are like, it's not Black enough, that's huge progress to students wanting to hide. So they're saying, no, we want to be challenged more. We want to talk about social justice in this way, and you're not doing that. And so I think that we've made huge steps by the questions that the kids are asking and saying, like, I want to see more, you need to step it up. I don't know if that answers it.
I want to just piggyback off something that Michaela just said. And when someone says, oh, that's not Black enough, the first reaction is to say, oh, God, what does that person mean? But it may mean that, gee, I want to have a discussion about social justice in this way. That's what it's not Black enough translates to mean. But you have to be willing as the adult to stick with it and ask the question, right? Where the kid or the other adult does not feel threatened, but really regards it as an overture, an opening up. Let's have a discussion, and I'm not going to get defensive about something that you said that really doesn't make me feel very comfortable in my whiteness, right? When that juxtaposition is established. I think this is great. I think this is great to have kids. I know that I hear this behind the scenes, and I am so thrilled that you routinely take kids to visit colleges.
Yeah, this year we went to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Philly and visited the 2 oldest historically Black colleges in the United States.
And they are?
Cheney and Lincoln University. And the kids were like, and to see them, how the students say to them, like, you better do your homework, they will kick you out. You know what happens is you're gonna see academic probation.
Okay, I think that's great. I also, I had hearts, hands, and I believe you said a greater involvement with PE personnel and with coaches in terms of professional development.
Yeah, academic coaches.
I'm sorry, you said academic coaches. Okay, I was thinking about
that would be great. That would be great, but I don't think that they get paid. to come to any of our meetings.
I see, okay, all right. Because very often things are said
Yeah.
by adults in a locker room. Or things are overheard by adults in the locker room and they don't know how to handle it because
No, you're
they
right.
don't have the skill set, right? So it's a big issue with PE and athletic coaches to find that scheduling time when you can bring them in, especially when someone's day doesn't begin until much later in the day. And when you're in a faculty meeting, they're with the kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, we used to have meetings with bus drivers too, but all these things are like
Yeah.
hard to do.
So, thank you. And as you need assistance, reach out to the board because this is really critical to the work that we're doing. Any other questions? Eva.
I just wanted to thank Michaela and Shannon for their work also with social justice this year, because they participate in a lot of the meetings. And in particular, the conversation around paraeducators and how a lot of the paraeducators are people of color and how we invite them to the table, and the Grow Together program. I have to give credit where credit is due, and Michaela had a lot of those conversations. So I'd like to give her credit for really opening the mind of how we can be diverse. I know it's like a long road, because we love having Michaela in leadership, but it would be nice to have more people of color other than Michaela in leadership opportunities. So just having that conversation about how we can grow together, I think was really enlightening for social justice. So I'm really grateful to Shannon and Michaela.
Anyone else? As questions come up, please send Kim, send me an email, and we'll pass those through. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to resignations and new hires. So we'll start with, we have 3 resignations. I'll list them. Amy Johnston of Green Street School, Catherine Burleson of Oak Grove, and Francesca Palumbo, who is the current assistant principal at Academy School. Deborah referenced that at the beginning of the meeting, so I'll have some further action after I announce the new hires. Those are the 3 resignations.
All right, is there a motion to accept these 3 resignations as identified by Mark?
I move to accept them with regret.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Matt?
I am saddened to see Amy Johnson's name for Green Street, and I worry for the counseling and guidance department in that school.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and indicating by saying aye. All those opposed, please raise your hand and indicate by saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have 4 new hires to present tonight. Eric Tuma for BAM's mathematics position, Mary Imicus, UHS English, Alan Blackwell, BAM's art teacher, and Kim Morrell, Academy School, grade 2.
So I would like to separate out these hires very specifically. Is there a motion to accept for employment Mary Imicus, Eric Tuma, and Kim Morrell?
So made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge Alan Blackwell, and for personal reasons, I must recuse myself from voting. So, is there a motion to accept for employment Alan Blackwell?
So many.
Seconded.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Tim?
Mr. Blackwell's personal statement and his responses to the diversity questions are really something that we should all read. It's nothing less than inspiring. We're hiring a person evidenced by those statements with incredible character. So it was just such a pleasure to read that application.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
You're abstaining, we need to roll call.
So true. I'm going to let Kim as vice chair take this over as chair for the moment.
Anne is absent, so she's not voting. Tim Maciel.
Aye.
Ruby McAdoo. Aye. Sean Murphy. Eva Nolan.
Hand is raised.
Aye.
Thank you, Eva. Kim Price, aye. Brian Reamer.
Aye.
Colleen Savage. Aye. And Matt Shibley.
Aye.
All right. The ayes have it.
Okay.
8-1 with 1 absent.
Okay, thank you very much. And I abstained. So, that acknowledges the new hires. Any retirements?
No.
No retirements. Okay, thank you very much. Administrative report. The final item?
That's what Michaela presented.
Oh, okay, but how about the hiring committee? Okay.
Oh, geez, sorry, thank you. Yes, as noted, we have an opening for an administrative position, assistant principal at Academy School. I believe Kelly is with us and has her hand up, so I'll turn it over to Kelly, as the principal of the Academy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. I raised my hand before we remembered about it. So I just wanted to kind of give an update about Francesca. Congrats to her. She has been assistant principal for 2 years, and she just accepted the position as principal at Windham School, elementary school. So happy for her and sad for us. She resigned as of the 22nd. She submitted her letter. So I did post right away in hopes of attracting candidates, being that the school year is ending shortly. And so far, I actually have 6 applicants, and the applicant pool looks pretty great. So that's great news. I am hoping to get a board member on the committee here tonight, looking at potentially interviewing the week of June 3rd. I'm not sure which day yet, but we can be flexible. Could be the following week as well, depending on schedules. So maybe that could be a point of discussion quickly. I know everyone's busy, but we'd appreciate having a board rep and being able to move forward. And typically the process has been that we do a first round and then end up with 2 finalists who we invite back to spend a couple of hours, and staff can talk to them and visit with them and ask them questions, and then have a final round with a smaller concentrated committee to make a decision. So that's been the process. I'm open to being flexible on that. And if there's a standout candidate from the first round, we could move forward with that person from one round as well. So just putting that out there. Thank you.
I have a question, Kelly. How many people do you anticipate being on this hiring/search committee?
Right now, I have about 7 people from the school who have expressed interest. We typically have about 10 total.
Okay, thank you. So as we consider board members who might be available to do this, just a reminder that as you make this commitment, you're committed for every single meeting along the way. Okay, the preliminary meetings and going through the process. And it's not a bad idea to have 2 people on a committee like this, just to provide some feedback. So, does anyone have availability during the next 2 weeks? That's what we're looking at, so it's really tight.
Likely the interviews would be during the school day.
And I'm going to assume we can Zoom as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay.
I'm out of town the 3rd through the 10th. If we did it the following week, I would be happy to, but I don't want to hold anyone up.
So I'm hearing, Kelly, that in an ideal world, you would like to start the process the week of June 3rd?
I think ideally, yes, but knowing that we are at May 28th, it could very well be the following week, and that could work as well. Yeah.
Okay, and you have candidates already who have presented for this position?
We do. We have 6, and the committee hasn't met yet to whittle it down at all. So it could be, about 4 interviews, most likely, is what I would expect.
Okay, do you have a sense of when the committee is meeting to whittle down the choice?
I didn't want to do anything before tonight just because the resignation was being presented and to have board representation.
Yeah. Okay, because we ideally want board representation even as it's whittled down from the 6 to the 4. Yeah, okay. So once again, we really do need, as per, I believe it's D1 policy, we need board representation on this committee. Ruby, yes.
I do have an opportunity for flexibility in my schedule during the work day, so I'm happy to step up, but I'm also stepping up quite a bit, and so I'm just kind of acknowledging that for things like this, which are during the workday, it's not possible for everyone, but just inviting us all to be as expansive as we can in terms of our schedule. But that being said, because I can only speak to my own schedule, I'm happy to serve if that's needed. I do think it is valuable to have 2 board members, even if there's some reason that one has to drop away if they can't make a thing, then there is still a board representation.
Right. I really do think 2 is a really good way to go. So again, is there anyone else? I'm looking at my schedule and I have limited availability during on certain days. So I'm also spread pretty thin at this point. Matt?
As long as we have the capacity for Zoom, again, with my limited schedule, I will volunteer.
You will volunteer, okay, all right. And I'm hearing a lot of this is going to depend upon when meetings are scheduled, but then again, you're gonna have to rally everybody and see who can and who cannot attend and look to accommodate schedules. All right, we've got Ruby, we've got Matt, we've got Colleen. And this would be after June 10, is that correct? Yeah. After June 10. And because you've got so many tentatives, Kelly, and it's so late in the season, I'm gonna add my name to the mix. And
You can add
Oh,
myself.
what?
I know I'm free at the end of the week. It's the beginning of the week that I'm not. I might be able to Zoom, but the end of the week, the 6th and the 7th, completely free besides helping Ruby.
Okay, the 6th and the 7th, and then into the following week as well.
Depending, yeah.
Depending, okay. So,
but I can be a backup.
Kelly, you have a lot of board members on your list.
I will step back.
Wait a minute, I was about to step back, Matt. Well, let's not anyone step back at this point. I think because of, I'm looking at my book and it's crazy. So we've got graduations coming up. So Kelly, do you have all those names?
I do, and what I'm thinking is I will try my best to figure out the optimal date, and I'll send out a doodle poll and include all 4 of you, and that way hopefully we'll have at least 2 that can make it.
Okay, and so I've got 5 of us on here. 5.
Ruby, Deb, Kim, oh, Colleen, yep, okay.
Right, good, okay. Thank you very, very much. We are obviously fully committed to this process. Thank you, Kelly.
I appreciate that. Thank you all.
All right, good. All right. So I'm looking at my list, and I think we are up to. I know. I'm just looking to make sure that I don't have anything else hidden away here. All right, consent agenda. We have pulled out the minutes of May 14th, I do believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, there's a big font. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda, which only contains right now the minutes of May 15 and the minutes of May 17? So is there a motion for approval of those 2 minutes?
So moved.
And a second, thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Now we are going to discuss the minutes of May 14. Matt?
Madam Chair, I'd like to amend the minutes from 5/14/24 to include the following. In the section update on board retreat 5/3/24, I'd like to correct the error noting the Guilford Library to reflect the accurate location, which was the Oak Grove Library. And then in the section Panorama Climate Survey Results, I'd like to include the verbiage, Paul Smith said that the results of the Panorama Family Survey and the teacher perception of student survey would be forthcoming. So that's just a straight addition to the minutes.
Is there a motion to accept these amendments to the minutes of 5/14/24?
So moved.
Okay. Second? Second. Thank you very much. I see nods. Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Approval of minutes. We are up to new business. I'm feeling like something is out of place here. It is now 7:55. All right, new business. Policy and Amendment Committee presents the following for a first reading. E14, Environmental Awareness and Responsibility. F4, Searches, Seizures, and Interrogation of Students by School Personnel. F5, searches, seizures, and interrogation of students by law enforcement personnel or other non-school personnel. F41, policy on section 504, an ADA grievance protocol for students and staff. And G13, acceptable use of electronic resources and the internet. Those are the 5 policies being presented for a first reading. And again, just so that everyone hears this very clearly, first reading will enable the community to read these policies and respond, and they will not go for a second reading until 10 days have passed. So this will not come up for a second reading at the next board meeting. And as I move down the agenda, unfinished business, policy amendment presents the following for readoption, and action is required here. F26, participation of home study students in school programs and activities. Is there a motion?
So made.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, that one has passed, thank you very much. Is there any further business that needs to be addressed this evening? Before we conclude, just another reminder, please send me an email tonight about next week's agenda. We are ending this meeting before 8 p.m. So send me that email tonight. This is amazing. So,
Madam Chair, being no further business before the board, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We are adjourned. It is 7:59.